Hey. Um, so recently there was a lot of huff. There's been a lot of huff on the Facebook page about version 3. So a lot of negativity. Why are people so negative about everything, and mostly about other people's complaints or ideas or whatever? Like every time someone posts something, someone comments something negative. Right. We should be better than that. Anyway, what I wanted to comment on today was that someone posted this question about what's more important, list or skill. And we actually have some data on that for version 2. Not for V3 yet, but it's getting there. As soon as we have a few tournaments in, we can start collecting data there. But it was fairly clear, although with huge caveats. Caveats being that we have no objective way of evaluating lists, we have no objective way of evaluating players. But we do have results. So there was a tendency in version 2 for the same players to end up in the same positions, and I could see that. So what we did was we had data from a lot of tournaments, many of the top international tournaments, the WTC, World Open War, such. And what we could see was that if we put a value on players, 1 to 5, 5 being the best in the world or like the best I've ever played, 4 being really strong, could win a tournament, 3 being average, 2 being needs a little bit of work, and a 1 being maybe a bad player or a new beginning player, right? If we put that value on, and we put the value of 1 to 5 on lists as well, we could sort of predict who would win tournaments. Now, it wasn't perfect, not by a long stretch, but what we could see was that you taking a certain list to a tournament was not a guarantee that you'd win anything. That was not the correlation, right? So we saw a lot of people bringing what was considered the top, most overpowered list, Gurkha spam, to tournaments, and maybe not doing well. We even saw players lose tournaments with that. So the correlation was approximate. We sort of did a little bit of math and numbers crunching on that, me and Russell Wright, mostly Russell, because I don't do math, but there was some number crunching going on, and the correlation between how good a player is compared to his opponent, of course, that we were able to predict with around 80% surety. So we were right 80% of the time who would win a certain matchup, player against player, just knowing who the players was and setting a value of 1 to 5 on that player, which means that you can evaluate how good a player is, because that means, I mean, if you're 80% sure of who will win a game just by knowing who will participate in that game, you're pretty accurate, right? Now, we did the same with lists, and with lists, that is less accurate. So that was only around 60% accurate. So what does that tell us? Well, it tells us, one, that we are maybe better at evaluating players than lists, or two, that perhaps lists doesn't matter as much as the player does, that the player is actually more important than the list. Or yeah, and And there, of course, there could be other things, right, that sort of push that. There's always a random element, which a lot of people pointed out on my channel, right? This is a game, there's dice involved. As soon as there's dice involved, you can't predict anything. I sort of disagree. So, for instance, anecdote time, right? I've been playing a lot of games recently, and my V3 opponent, right? We've been training for World Open War. So I played around like 12 games, and the opponent that I played the most, Torben, because he's going for the first time. He really needs the training, and he has the time. So I played him quite a lot, and I have won almost all the games. I've lost a couple, but almost all the games, right? So the difficulty then is it because of my list? Is it because of who I am and who Torben is? And we cannot say that for sure. We can't say it for sure. For me, having interviewed a lot of players who've won tournaments, right? They all say that yes, there is an element of chance to bold action. All of the winning players, like, and this, I'm including myself in that category because I've won tournaments, right? We're all saying that yes, there is an element of chance, yes, but a good player will spend most of their time risk managing, right? So that you know what are the odds of this happening, what are the odds of that happening, and then trying to build lists and play in a way that manages that risk so it doesn't take away the game. Because a good player will try to make the game about who's best and not about who rolls the most sixes, because you can't control that, right? Lost my train of thought for a minute there. You can see I'm rambling. No, so all of the top players that I've interviewed, they've all said that they think player is more important, player skill is more important than the actual list. But when matched up with a playstyle, a list that you're familiar with, it does synergize quite a lot. So maybe there's something in having a list that you've played quite extensively, that you know what can do, and then just playing that list. So maybe one of the things that we should evaluate as well is how long has that player played that nation, that list, that play style, and that is also an indicator of how good they are. So, to finish off with, I've told this story before. I read an article once about violinists. Now, there was I think it was a Swedish study about the top violinists in Europe. Or was it just Sweden? I can't remember. Like the top 10 violinists, the best people at playing the violin, right? And they were amazing. And some of them may have been, just gifted children who just picked up that violin and immediately could play Mozart, whatever. And that was what they were trying to find out. How much is being good at playing violin? How much is it something that's innate? Is it in your fingers? Do you have like very good hands or whatever? Or is it like your musical sense? What is it? And what they found out, these scientists, was that all of the top violinists had all spent 10,000 hours practicing, at least. So what was the biggest indicator of success in anything? their idea was that the biggest indicator of success was that you did it a lot. And I really, really believe in that. The people I see winning tournaments, doing really well, have played the game a lot. It is not the person that shows up at a tournament with that overpowered list that they've copied down from the internet because Bo Mortensen ran it. It's not. The person that wins the tournament is the person who brings a good list and who knows that list and who has played a lot of games. A lot of games. Because I think the most important thing in Bold Action is the decision process. What do you do? When do you do it? What is most important? And that is where people make mistakes, and mistakes will cost you the victory in any game. So that was my 2 cents in the debate on what is most important when you play a game of Bold Action. What decides that game? Now, I've already done quite a series of videos on that, so but that was of course for version 2, so this was just my commentary just going into version 3. I expect this to hold up more or less in version 3, but we don't know yet what the meta is, what lists are good, how that ratio of list versus player versus, we don't know. So yeah, nice talking to you. I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.